Cinco de Mayo. I hope I pronounced that right. It's a Mexican holiday today on May 5th. We also have a severe weather outbreak taking place in the southern states here in the United States, which I'm going to speak about in just a second. The line of the thunderstorm development is going to be reaching the Tyler, Texas, to Shreveport, Louisiana, to El Dorado, Arkansas. I don't know for sure if I'm pronouncing those cities right. By early this afternoon, which is pretty close to now, and then it's continuing through the remainder of the afternoon, tracking southeast, continuing into the early overnight hours. This thunderstorm development was a result of a low-pressure system which has developed over in the southern Texas panhandle, which has a warm front, which now has become a stationary front, extending east, going into southern Oklahoma, southern Arkansas, and then into Mississippi. A dry line extends south from the surface low into the West Texas area, down into the River Grande Village area, a River Grande Valley area. And a cold front extends southwest from the low into the New Mexico area. An upper level low is over southeast Colorado and east central Colorado. That will be moving into Kansas today. It is believed that the upper level low is responsible for the development of this surface low. I think the surface low, though, will be the main priority over here. The front, the warm front, the stationary front that extends into southern Oklahoma and southern Arkansas, that's going to be the focus point for thunderstorms, especially excessive rainfall today. 1 to 4 inches of rain expected around the Shreveport, Louisiana area, and the National Weather Services have met and decided that they would not issue a flash flood watch, but that is a possibility with all the heavy rain. There'll be two bullseye with this heavy rain. There's some areas getting 3 to 5 inches, some even 6 to 9 inches, but generally 1 to 4 inches is what's expected. There could be some severe weather as well. Large hail and damaging winds would be the primary threat, especially the damaging winds. Now, when you get to the dry line, that's where really major severe weather is forecasted. Tornadoes are more of a possibility, I believe, in that area. When the dry line crosses that area, that's where the tornadoes are more of a possibility. As the cold front, tonight, later this afternoon, the cold front becomes the focus point, not the warm front, but tonight the cold front becomes the focus point for the thunderstorms, and the cold front becomes the focus point for strong or severe thunderstorms, which will have very few tornadoes, if any, but there could be a few supercells that do develop along this line. It's going to form into a line of thunderstorms, and out ahead of this cold front, there could also be a few scattered supercells that develop into tornadoes. That's a possibility, and as a result, the National Weather Service has issued a tornado watch, which is in effect for portions of Arkansas, Louisiana, and Texas, perhaps even portions of Oklahoma. You could see it on the imagery that I posted up for this podcast. It's in effect until 6 p.m. 6 p.m. this evening. I would imagine there would be at least one tornado warning. So people in Shreveport, I don't even know for sure if I'm pronouncing the name right, but they should be on the lookout. That National Weather Service seems to do a lot of tornado warning issuing in particular. So it would not be surprising at all to see something develop over there. The severe weather threat then pushes more into the southeast part of our country for tomorrow. This low pressure system that we have over our area then moves up to the Atlantic coast and goes into not the mid-Atlantic area. It moves over to the Atlantic Ocean by Saturday, by Shabbos, and it becomes a closed low, and it just becomes kind of stationary. It becomes cut off from the jet stream, and we have a very interesting thing developing here for the weekend onward into next week. We have summer heat, true summer heat. It's going to be the first time temperatures hit 90 degrees in many places in Louisiana, Arkansas. But not only that, it's also going to be the first 90-degree temperatures for places up north. St. Louis, Missouri, Chicago, Illinois is also possible. This is a high-pressure ridge, which is developing going all the way from southern Texas, all the way into the mid-Mississippi Valley, up into the Great Lakes area, up into Ontario and Quebec. That's this whole area. What's interesting is usually when you look on the map, in the summertime heat waves, I'm used to seeing some type of flow off of the Bermuda high pressure system, and then that flow continues into the country and pushes up the Gulf of Mexico. Here, we don't have that flow. The map that I saw doesn't show any flow coming from the Bermuda high at all. All of that is blocked off. All of that is blocked off. The moisture's coming from the Gulf of Mexico. But despite that, dew points are going to be very high. Not only high, I mean, they're going to be probably record territory. That's how humid things are going to be over the next week. Very humid. I have to give an explanation. I just had to find an explanation for why the humidity is going to be so high this early in the season. And I think it's because of all the heavy rainfall. It's going to keep temperatures down by about 3 or 4 degrees than what they would have been without the humidity. I think even more than 3-4 degrees, but forecast highs are going into the upper 90s. The upper 90s. Yes. Thank you, God. The upper 90s for next week. For places in Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, temperatures in the low or mid-90s for St. Louis, Missouri. Heat indices are expected to remain under 100 degrees for the Gulf Coast states, but not for St. Louis. Heat indices may very well rise above 100 degrees for the St. Louis area. According to one model I saw last night, probably about 102 would be the peak heat index. And I don't know exactly what's happening further north of there, but I do know dew points are expected to rise to even higher levels in the state of Iowa. And I would love to figure out, is there a corn crop or is there not a corn crop? Because if there's not a corn crop, why are the dew points continuing to rise? What could Iowa put into the atmosphere that the Gulf of Mexico has failed to do? The water on the Gulf of Mexico, the warm water there, you would think it's done quite a good job at putting tons of moisture into the air. But Iowa can do it better, right? Iowa is going to bring it up to a new notch. I would think the cornfields, but there are no cornfields, are there? Is May too early for the cornfield? Here's one last point over here, 1 or 2 last points. Friday night will be the final cool night for Louisiana of the season. So that's a good possibility. There will be no more cold weather. The final cool night will be in Louisiana. So we're watching the season of summer, like the real summer season. You could say it arrives at a different time every year. Chicago, like there's usually a certain day it gets warm and then it's permanently warm after that day. Permanently, like for the rest of the summer season. So Louisiana, that day is arriving this Friday night and then it's gone. Permanent summer from this Shabbos onward. That also is true for parts of Arkansas as well. Is it true for, it could very well be true for everywhere unless you're living by a lake, by Lake Michigan. It can't be true here in Chicago because we have lake water temperatures that remain in the 40s. So we're going to have to wait until June. And the Lincoln Park Zoo is not the place to go until those lake water temperatures heat up. You have to go to the Brookfield Zoo, even when days temperatures are warm. So next week, we have warm weather coming into the Chicago area. Temperatures likely highs in the 80s. Lake breeze may develop both Monday and Wednesday. And there might even be hotter weather than that. But St. Louisans should prepare for a real heat wave, heat and humidity, record heat, actually. For real, record heat is expected in the St. Louis area on Tuesday as high temperatures go into the low and mid 90s and near record heat for the other days. You look at these records, you see for Hannibal, I think, or Quincy, the old record's 1895, 1921. These are old records from a long time ago. They might be broken next week, or we're going to come very close to breaking them, despite the high humidity, which is quite amazing. The humidity, again, that lowers air temperatures. Dew points absorb energy. The sun is less efficient at heating air, which is high water vapor. But nonetheless, temperatures are still going to make it into the upper 90s for parts of the south central states. Upper 90s, mid to upper 90s in Oklahoma, that's one thing when you're behind the dry line. 97 degrees in North Platte, Nebraska, when you're behind the dry line, that's one thing. But to have upper 90s when you're in the humid territory, right off the Gulf of Mexico, dew points probably in the upper 60s at that time. That's really something amazing, which will likely be happening next week. And then as dew points rise even further into the 70s, as you get into the St. Louis area, or mid 70s, especially by Iowa, the air temperatures will be reduced to the mid 90s, 90s for a large portion of the area. There's high confidence in this weather pattern developing, and it's not the usual heat wave, actually. It's not a usual, it's a real heat wave. We don't even need to rely upon this chusim and the merits of the Atlantic Ocean. It's coming from the Gulf of Mexico itself and our own vegetation right here in the Midwest. The soil, everything is just so moist. It might put those temperatures down, but the heat indices are going to go way up because of the high humidity. Thank you. Everyone stay safe. People in Louisiana, Texas, Arkansas, those areas should pay close attention to tornado warnings. But the place that really has to pay close attention is in Alabama. Out in Alabama, although there's less potential for tornadoes, the potential is going to be in the middle of the night. So the tornado sirens, they're much harder to hear at night. They don't really work at night. People are sleeping. They don't wake people up. Tornado sirens during the day, they work. So there could be some tornadoes, but the areas which are getting the tornadoes today would be during the day. There's less of a chance for tornadoes in Alabama. There still is a chance tonight. There still is a chance tomorrow as well for parts of Alabama as well. There's less of a chance for tornadoes, but at night, that's always the most deadly tornadoes, and people are advised. I think the weather radio with an alarm, a good weather radio with an alarm, those things will wake you up in the middle of the night, and you could set it that the alarm will only go off if there's a tornado warning, not for a dense fog advisory. If you don't set it for tornado warnings, you'll be woken up in the middle of the night for dense fog advisories. Imagine that. Anyways, thank you for listening. I wish everyone a wonderful day.